Okay, I think it's safe. Oh, it's live right there. Okay, so let me just hit mute right here. So, um, well, as the video says, this is my reaction to Star Trek Picard. I just saw the first episode. And first, I want to say when I was setting up StreamYard and then I went on to YouTube, I mean, I could have just clicked my profile and done that, but I just typed in the word mad_cat. And I seriously think I'm shadow banned, in all honesty, because you cannot see my profile come up in the search results. You can see other users named MadCat, and I have more videos than them and more subscribers than them. So I find it so funny that this small little channel, you can't even find my profile on the search results. I eventually found this live video after going all the way to the bottom and seeing the next part that loaded up. So I'm just putting it out there that apparently YouTube doesn't like me. I couldn't be happy. It's like, wow, when you piss people off, that's the way you're doing good. But anyways, Star Trek Picard. Now, understand about me, for anyone who doesn't know, I don't really talk about Star Trek very, very often. I've done videos in the past. I am a huge, huge Star Okay, so sorry for that, people. I'm back. Anyways, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I uploaded Star Trek Board, which was originally a video game, and then it was adapted into an audiobook. I never actually played the video game, but I did listen to the audiobook, and then I spliced the two together, and many people seem to have enjoyed it. I often say that I've been watching Star Trek since the day I was born, which is actually true because when my mother held me in her arms for the first time, she had Star Trek on the TV. So literally the day I was born, I was watching Star Trek. I've probably seen every Star Trek except Discovery like many, many, many times over. Even the newer movies, the J.J. Abrams Bad Robot movies, I liked the first and the third one. The second one just really grated me, but I really wasn't interested in Star Trek Discovery, and not seeing it and everyone else's reaction, that was a good choice. So I've been following Star Trek Picard for a while now, and I knew that it was going to be problematic. So part of me didn't want to see it, but another part's like, this is the closest thing we've gotten to Star Trek, like actual Star Trek, in quite some time. And even though it was already tainted by what Patrick Stewart said publicly about, politics and blah, blah, blah. So first, I'm going to say that while I have some issues with this, the first episode is keeping me somewhat interested. And if I were to give this a grade, I'd say maybe a B. Not a B plus, not a B minus, but a B. And I feel like it could have been better, but I think there was just enough there that if you were truly a fan of Star Trek, especially the Next Generation, you could get something out of it. So I wrote down some notes of some observations I made while watching this. And first, I want to start off with the song Blue Skies. I don't know if that's what it's actually called, but you hear that playing, and it was a nice nod to Star Trek Nemesis, like the song that Data sang at Riker's wedding, and of course the last song, the song that B4 was singing, indicating he had a bit of Data in him. And it's just like that. That was a very nice opening, especially with the dream sequence. It was kind of like, I know maybe I'm just really looking for meaning when there might not be any, but it's kind of like someone out there said, Star Trek fans, we're reaching out to you in a very subtle way, but we know you're there and we want you to be a part of this. Because otherwise, there's no real reason to play that song, just even a little hint of it, if not to say, we promise that we will try to include you into it. And I don't even think it was Alex Kurtzman. That wasn't him. Maybe it was the show creator. Maybe it was Picard who was doing it. I don't know. But someone out there wants us to know that they do have the dedicated fans in mind. And maybe they can't give us everything they want, but they're reaching out just a little bit. So the dream sequence, at first I thought there was some sort of foreshadowing in it. But I don't know, and now going to the end of the episode, I now realize that it was kind of saying something about the past, about something that was on Picard's mind. Maybe it's still foreshadowing something, but I guess we won't know until we really watch the whole first season. But it didn't feel like I was watching Picard. It felt like, I don't know, I was watching Professor X, in all honesty. It just didn't feel like it was Picard. I reason that, there's a difference between when he retired, when he was promoted to Admiral, and when he basically retired from Starfleet, and this is 30 years later. So maybe a lot has changed for him in that time, and it kind of feels like, I don't know, I haven't seen that natural progression, so it's still him, but he's evolved over the last 30 years. So, so moving on, we meet River. And I know that's not her name. Her name was Doge, but I call her River. River Phoenix. Not River Phoenix. River Tam. River Phoenix. River Tam. And the reason I call her River Tam is she's basically a female that's unstable but highly skilled assassin. She's a female badass who doesn't know why she's a female badass, which describes River. I mean, River doesn't know she's a badass, and yet she is. And she can just snap at a moment if you say the right words. And for some reason, Doge, I just like calling her Doge. Dodge, I guess. She just can do all of these amazing acrobatic feats, and that's it. So it was it was kind of funny to me that the three figures in black knew that she could activate at any moment, and then they sit there questioning her and then try to put a bag over her head, and that's when she snaps. And it's like, if she's some sort of, and spoilers for all of this, I apologize, I should have said that initially. But if they knew that she was a synthoid like Data, they should have done something to neutralize her. And you might say, well, they couldn't have neutralized her. They did that in Resurrection. Was it Resurrection? Insurrection. Resurrection. I swear I'm a Star Trek fan. But in Insurrection, when they sang the British Tar and they linked the ships together and Worf got into the shuttle with Data there and he used his tricorder to knock him out They could have done the same thing. So this scene was just like, we wanted to show she was a badass. That was the only purpose of the scene. And to me, that's just a bit weak. It's kind of like the Worf effect. We only have Worf there because a big-ass Klingon who's very, very strong, and then we get to see him smacked around because then that's how we know someone is strong. So I feel like this was just a pointless scene of saying, hey, she's a river. I do like that the black alien guy, I don't know what was going on with him, but apparently he was trying to make her an alcoholic drink, and he was pulling up vanilla, and it looked like a Slurpee cup, or I guess a cup that you get at Starbucks or whatever. I don't know, but it's like the symbol for vanilla was a clear cup with a dome with a hole up top. And that's your symbol for vanilla. You couldn't upload like the plant leaf. You couldn't upload some sort of icon for it. That was it. That was just like, I don't know what the hell that was. That was just so strange. And, it sticks out to me like a sore thumb. And, world building is such an important thing for me. So, I notice these tiny little details. I don't always notice Easter eggs, but I notice world building stuff very well. I'm an author myself, and I'm passionate about story. And being River, there's no real questions asked about any of this. We just have to kind of accept it. But at least in this case, by the end, we get some more ideas about who and what she was. So I will say that does deviate a little bit from the River. The opening music felt very un-Star Trek-like. Actually, it took me back to Discovery, because Discovery, that music was just... I'm like bored out of my mind. I mean, you take every Star Trek, the original series, the animated series, Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, and even Enterprise. And while they're all different from one another, there is still this sort of element of there being excitement and hope all rolled in one. Even with Enterprise, I forget what that song is called. It'll probably come to me later. But even with that, there was still this hope that you felt. DS9 was very smooth, but there was still this element of hope, this good bombastic music. You hear the trumpets and the horns while the strings are just gently taking you along. And even the Jar Jar Abrams movies still had the music that I thought was very good. I love that so much. But it still gave us that Star Trek essence. And Discovery and this new one, which is supposed to be a part of the Discovery universe, had none of that. I was bored out of my mind. And I shouldn't be, because the music is a very important aspect of Star Trek. Just like Star Wars, it's also a very important aspect. You have to take that seriously. You can't just say, hey, we're going to play a piece of classical music. Jan Sluka, hello to you. Sir or ma'am, I really don't know. I'm assuming a sir, but, correct me if I'm wrong. So something that I noticed, and I'm wondering if anyone else noticed this when they see it, or if you haven't seen it yet, watch out for this. But they display, what was it? The creator of Star Trek The Next Generation, Gene Roddenberry. And I thought that was a bit strange. Creator of Star Trek The Next Generation. Not the creator of Star Trek, but specifically The Next Generation. And I thought that was a bit strange. But what was even stranger to me is that was only on the screen for a split second. I had enough time to read it before it went to something else. And if I wasn't really paying attention, I would have missed it. I would have been like, well, they didn't even credit Gene Roddenberry. But all the other names stayed on the screen for at least 5 seconds. That maybe got 2 seconds on there. And I'm like, why did they just do that? That should, if anything, be on the screen for 10 seconds. That's very important. Gene Roddenberry was Star Trek, and maybe he didn't agree with every decision that was made, beyond his creation, but there wouldn't be Star Trek without Gene Roddenberry. And it's like, oh, we mentioned him because we had to, but we completely dismissed it. And that was just so weird to me. So hopefully someone else noticed that and might be able to give me insight onto why they seem to hate Gene Roddenberry. I mean, everyone else after that seemed to get a longer presence on the screen, but not Gene Roddenberry. Who cares who created it? Let's care who messed up Star Trek. So, one thing that I will note, and I definitely give the show a B for this, is poor characterization. I mean, we already know who Picard is, so we don't really need to do much for his characterization. And Doge, well, she's just a river, so we really don't need to do anything for her character development. I mean, we still get some character development from her, so I'm not complaining about that, but who were those people in his villa? At first, I thought they were Vulcans, because the extended universe of Star Trek said that he went on to become like an ambassador for Vulcan. So I thought, oh, while he was on Vulcan, he married a Vulcan female. But then I see his manservant, who's a Vulcan, smiling. And then it's like, wait a minute. These people are kind of like showing emotions. Either they're Romulan or they are very bad Vulcans. And I assume that they're Romulan, especially with the way some of the other things went. But it was like, you could have gave us a little bit more. Don't just tease us. Get me to care about these people. Don't use them as background decorations. That's just lazy, in my opinion. Let's see. Oh, I love the press interview and how they said that Picard wouldn't be asked about why he left Starfleet. And it was supposed to be about the supernova and his efforts to save the people. And, it's kind of funny to me, but I mean, this series is supposed to be like, oh, we're social justice warriors and, Trump bad and Brexit bad. And we should just open up our borders and let people in. And I did get a sense of that, by the way, with the whole Romulan thing about what Picard was talking about during that interview. It's still hard for me to believe that Starfleet wouldn't have an aide to Romulus. Like Picard had to convince them. That's just kind of bullshit. That does not stand with any amount of Starfleet I have ever seen in the 5 series and 13 movies. I mean, Insurrection kind of gave us a kind of a negative light about Starfleet, but still, just to deny the Romulans a chance to save them, to let them die. This is the same Starfleet that wanted to make peace with Klingons in Star Trek VI, even though they were the enemy. And if anything, the Klingons were far worse than the Romulans. And it's like, oh, well, they didn't want to save the Romulans, even though they promised. Who the fuck wrote this? That's the best you could do, that suddenly Starfleet became unstarfleet? So, yeah, but the press, I kind of feel like she represents kind of like the CNN and MSNBC, that they're not sticking to what they promised. They're trying to dig in and go for the jugular. And that's what she did. And I feel like that better represents the leftist media than the right media. I mean, media as a whole, it definitely represents that, but I think that's more for the leftist media. You know, they don't know how to take, like, hey, this is all he wants to talk about. You just got to keep digging, 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 digging. So, moving on from that. So, talking to Doge for the first time over tea, I kind of felt like Picard came through. Like Patrick Stewart channeled his inner Picard, and Picard came out. And it took 20 minutes of watching this show, but that was the first time I felt I was watching Picard. Just that conversation with T. Of course, Picard enters into his vault, I guess his safety deposit box, which is freaking huge. I would love to have one of those, honestly. And I thought it was a nice nod to the fans. Again, reaching out just a little bit. It's a little subversive. Like you actually see the banner Captain Picard Day, which was from the show. I forget which episode it was. But that was just a nice little nod. So I appreciate whoever put that in and the blue skies. And there was also just that little jingle, a little piece that you could hear the Star Trek theme. It was only a couple of notes and it was easy to miss. But if you get the chance, rewatch that scene and you can hear just a little bit of the Star Trek theme right there. So yeah, nice nod. Thank you for that. And of course we see Doge or the River fighting against the Romulans, and that's when we discovered they're Romulans. And this is another thing I hate about the River, is that she's so badass and no one can match her at all. Give me a little bit of a challenge. Let me think that there's actually a chance she could lose. She could still be badass, but she is so OP that it's like, I'm bored. I don't care about this fight. There's no stakes in it. There's nothing. And the only reason why she gets destroyed because I guess the Romulan spit out its blood, and for some reason it was acid. I don't know if that was something the Romulan did to kill himself, but he spit it out and she destroyed, and then the gun overheated and explode, but there's no evidence of anything. That's a load of crap. There is some evidence somewhere of what happened, but and then we learn that then he goes to the Daystrom Institute, and then he learns that she's a twin. So I'm interested enough to see where this is going. Certainly there's a little bit of politics. There's a lot of shit that's just done for this is the best way we can tell the story, which again is lazy writing. Very lazy writing. But there's just enough of Picard in there that says that he's in there somewhere. That maybe Patrick Stewart will channel more of Picard. I do like the end where he says, I wasn't living, I was waiting to die. And that is a very Picard-esque thing to say. So, once again, I give it a B. I want to see the next episode. I'll probably do this if you guys like this or not. But I mean, I know Random Mecha, she's going to probably talk about this. Tim Pool's going to talk about this. And here's an offer to Tim Pool. Let's watch Star Trek Picard together, because I think you would appreciate what I could bring to it. And I know I appreciate your fandom for the series. So, offer out to Tim Pool. Let's do it together. I don't know if that interests you or not, but I think you and me are of a kind that in another lifetime we could have been friends. He'll get that. Just let him know. So that's going to do it for me. I'm still working on the men's rights book. I'm doing a lot of research right now, and I do have a group on Facebook, so come find me. Message me first. You can find me under Chris Vody, my first and last name. Just message me first and let me know, hey, I want to add you. Because if you just add me blindly, I'm going to ignore you. I just don't add people blindly. You want my attention, message me first. And trust me, I get those messages. Hopefully I get those messages. I should get those messages. Anyways, that's going to do it for me. I know this was a little bit long, but, Star Trek is a passion of mine. I even wrote a Star Trek story, and that actually helped me a lot to become a writer. I didn't even know back then it was called fanfic. I didn't even know that was such a thing. I was just trying to do my own thing. So I'm passionate about story. I'm passionate about world building, passionate about Star Trek. And yeah, I give this a B. It's almost close to a B minus in all honesty, but I guess I'm just waiting. That's probably going to change if the series goes downhill from here. But let's give this a chance, see where it goes, and I'll report from there. Anyways, that's going to do it for me. This is Mad Cat signing off. Yes, and broadcast.